anyone over here today who doesn't know me, my name is Indika. I'm the chapter director for Startup Grind Qatar. We've been doing this for quite a long time now. The whole objective of Startup Grind in Qatar and globally as well is we bring the ecosystem together. That's simply what we do. And we try to bring topics and content that are relevant to startups in Qatar, where we can learn from each other, build partnerships, and connect with each other. That's what we do best. No rocket science, right? A quick shout out to some of our sponsors who have been really supportive to Startup Grind Qatar, Qatar Financial Center, Jeeb, Hyperthink, Urban Point. They've been really supportive over the months and years that we've been in operation. We can't do this alone. We have some amazing partners. First and foremost, Workington, where we are today. They've been our home for the last 1.5 years for all our events. So thank you, Workington team. So we have Business Startup Qatar, Qatar Day, Innovation Cafe, Hatch Quarter, this is from Melbourne actually, who are supporting us in certain ways. Mangosteen, I Wanna Grow, eHarris, you saw some of their solutions outside in the reception as well. Google Developers, Doha Group, Karakstop, who's catering for us today. And so that's some of our partners that we work with, who bring in a lot of value add to what we do every month. So, I don't want to take much time, so today is an amazing topic. So we have two amazing people who are not new to Doha, but and not definitely new to the investment space. And so today's topic is all about putting Alex and Sumaya on the hot seat, right? I was told that they have brought their checkbook and come as well. You did, right? You didn't? Alex is no comment from Alex. No, I'm joking, guys. Right. So Alex, Sumaya, please, welcome. Please. Great. So I have some questions for them today. So I'm sure all of you are probably a little bit unfamiliar of me sitting here today, which I normally don't do. But today I made it an exception to, because I really like these guys and I wanted to take this opportunity to moderate this session so that we can have some fun, right? Okay. And we want to make sure that we leave some time at the end of the Q&A so that all of you all have a lot of questions probably to ask Alex and Sumaya as well about Rasmal, about their strategy, unless they answer some of those during the Q&A. So please keep in mind, and please, just one request, guys, when you ask the questions at the end, just keep it short so that we can give the opportunity to many of the people who have questions. Welcome, Mohammed. Okay, so let's get down to this. I have a few cards of questions to go through. Yeah, I'm loving this today. I generally sit there and watch this happening. Today I'm here, so I get the chance to do this. So Alex and Sumaya, I know many of us here know you guys, because I know Alex, you've been with QDB also for a long time over the years in Qatar. Sumaya, you've been here for a couple of years now, and you've been in the ecosystem and been meeting some of the startups and the enablers in the ecosystem. Who is Alex and Sumaya, and what's the experience and the knowledge you all bring to Rasmal and to Qatar from the VC space that you all have been in? So who wants to go first?
Well, ladies first always.
Yeah, sure.
So Sumaya and Alex are two different people. So I'm going to start myself. So a mentor of mine before used to call me, you're the product of the startup industry. And why is that? It's because the last 12 years I was in the startup industry, and it all started for me when I got the scholarship fully funded. I'm originally from Tunisia, to go to the Silicon Valley, study whatever I want, and do the industry I want. And this is when I discovered the word startup. And I just fell in love with it. So I have business administration background, and then I started working in the whole ecosystem with different hats. So I started with Founder Institute, so I was taking care of the incubation, and at the same time we were running the fund of seed for them. So I was like a sponge, learning everything so fast, and so I started as an intern and ended up managing the program. But the path was clear, just to evolve in that VC and grow in it. But then I felt to be intellectually honest with myself. Sometimes I just make some assumptions that things will go a certain way because I studied them that way, and then it doesn't work. So I was like, you know what, this is the perfect timing to just stop and be part of a startup myself to understand those questions. Startup, it's a B2B SaaS, still up and running and doing great. I decided to spend 3 years with them as a chief operations officer. It was a wonderful experience where I learned what makes things work, what makes things fail, and then decided to come back to investment. So I came back and worked with Plug and Play Ventures. It's one of the major VCs in the Silicon Valley. I was also part of Smart Capital. I was called by my government to be part of putting together a fund of 200 million euros to invest in Africa. So that was the fund of fund hat I had for a year. And then I was doing my MBA at IDEC Business School in Nice, because it was the good timing to do that, after 12 years of investment experience. And then an alumni of that, my school, was Alexander Widmer. And he was explaining to me what is happening in the Middle East, etc. And then I understand the culture. I speak Arabic, and I saw how emerging and wonderful it is. And I love being part of starting things from scratch. And so this is how it was just a wonderful opportunity for me to decide to come here 2 years ago, be part with a wonderful team to put together the initiative of Rasmal Ventures, and at the same time discover the ecosystem in the Middle East, in Qatar, etc. So this is in a nutshell. I'm super passionate about what I do. I think venture capital is the best job in the world, and this is a quote from Alex, but I really feel the same, because you have two different, very interesting hats in VC. The first one is that if you're a people person, you're going to love it, because you meet founders, you challenge them, you learn from them on a daily basis. But at the same time, there is the part where there is the adrenaline of investing, of assessing, of taking risks, and combining both in one job is just wonderful. And we're recruiting. So, so that's pretty much it on my side.
Test. Is this working? What do I need to do?
So, being a VC is the best job on the planet. That's my line, which Sumaya stole. So I've said that 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again. It's an amazing job. So I think maybe what's more relevant than who I am is how I got to VC. I don't tell this story very often. Maybe even people here who know me haven't heard this story. So I very briefly, so I studied art history and philosophy. My father told me that was really stupid. And so I left university. I had my own startup for a while. Then I became head of sales of a tech company. And then I went to do an MBA in a wonderful school called IDEC in France. And when I graduated from IDEC, from my MBA, I was actually the kid in the class who had the most job offers. So I had 6 job offers coming out of my MBA, because I worked really hard at it, and I did a good job. So everything from consulting to a marketing job with an alternative telecom operator that went bust two months later in the dot-com bubble burst. And one of the job offers was with a VC in Paris. And I thought, wow, how boring, to be on the other side. So instead of like running a company or running sales, I would just be investing. And so what is that thing? And I investigated. It seemed solid, in the wake of the dot-com bubble. It seemed like, something solid. And so I took this job, and life is often like that. It's made up of random choices and random happenings that lead to great things. So these events I'm describing actually were in July 2000. So I've been a venture capitalist for 24 years. I've done about 60 VC deals in Europe, in North America, and I came to the Middle East about 10 years ago to help manage a fund called STC Ventures, which was the first investor in Karim, among other successful investments. And I came to Qatar 4 years ago to work with my friends at QDB to help advise their VC practice. And this is how I'm here. And we started Rasmal.
Great. I'm so tempted to ask how many X's you all made on the Karim deal, but never mind. It's okay. Alex is giving me his
it's
blank
public.
look.
No, not at all. No, it's public. It's actually public. So we reinvested throughout the rounds that we could. So a small fund can only reinvest so long in all the bigger, as the rounds get bigger. But our first 1 million investment earned almost 200x.
Wow. I think we should, yeah. Why aren't we all VCs, I guess? Huh? Anyways, all right. So coming to Rasmal, what's the story behind launching Rasmal, Alex? And why Qatar? Why did you all pick Qatar to be the home for Rasmal? And what does Rasmal mean?
Sumaya, please answer what does Rasmal mean,
Yeah.
and I'll take the history
This is
question
the
after
privilege
that.
of speaking Arabic. So in the logo that you all have, in the mugs I hope you got, so the logo is like this, right? So when you look at this one, it's the first letter of Rasmal. It's R, right? Rasmal. And then in Arabic, it's Ra, Ra's al-Mal. So it's the two letters together. And Rasmal in Arabic means capital. So this is it.
So why Qatar? So in fact, I was here. I was in Qatar, and you know, in part also the ecosystem, but including QDB, you know, on some level also asked us to see how to boost the VC ecosystem and how to actually create a fund. But you know, a VC is like any other startup in some ways. I mean, it's like starting up any other company. There's a market gap, and so you fill it. The opportunity is to fill market gaps, and there were no VCs here, and therefore an opportunity to be the, you know, at least the first, hopefully not the only one. We want other VCs in Qatar, but to be the first is kind of has a certain cool factor, and so we filled the gap and we started the company here. We could have started it elsewhere, but this was a good place. Now that we're here, we're far from just a Qatari company. I mean, our ambition is very much regional and very much global.
Great, thanks, Alex. Okay, I know Rasmal is beyond both of you. There are a couple of other partners as well. So what's the kind of experience these partners bring into the whole investment decision-making process, the community and the ecosystem?
Yeah. So what I'll say is that if you look at VC teams, you know, worldwide, there are three profiles that do VC. And typically a team is divided between the three different profiles. So there's techies, there's, you know, a good share of engineers who do VC for good reason, because we look at new tech, we evaluate tech. And so there's kind of the component of engineers, which I would say is a big third. And then there's bankers, there's financial types, who come from investment banking or who come from banking more generally. And then there's generalists, more ex-entrepreneurs, you know, or people who have had a senior corporate function. And so that's really interesting because it's a VC at the end of the day is kind of a small team, but the fact that you have these three different profiles makes it not homogeneous, and therefore it gives you different points of view on the projects that you look at. And this is what we tried to do. When we built the team, we have people from various backgrounds, and in order to provide that diversity in the projects that we look at.
Alex, are you able to quickly mention the couple of names of the partners and quick background where they come from so that people get a good idea as well? Sure.
So Alex and myself, and then we have Dr. Sheikha Al-Jaber. She was part of the management of Turidu before. She's also the founder of Doha Tech Angels. So she's also the techie of the team. She has a doctorate in computer science. So she's with us also. And we have Angus Patterson. He was a venture capitalist also for more than 20 years. He was also the partner of Alex for his adventure in STC Venture. So those are the four of us.
Great, thank you. Okay, general question, this is, how do you differentiate your investment strategy from other VCs in the market, like from a vision and mission point of view, or is every VC the same?
Take this one?
Yes, please.
All right, so interesting question, because when we decided to be what we are today, Rasmal Ventures, with our current investment mandate, we try to do also our homework and see what's happening in the region. How can we come and complement the picture, right? And so when we look at the MENA region today, we see that we have a death valley when it comes to Series A. I know Series A, the definition is different from a region to another, but what we mean is that the founders, the good founders that were able to prove the concept in the market and they're in the challenge of growing and expanding, there is important lack of funding in the region, in the MENA, right? And so this is why when we decided to come and join the scene, we wanted to come and join with this complementarity. So we decided that we're going to be Series A, VC, and then that we will be also focusing on bringing value. So a lot of founders I'm speaking to in the MENA region, I'm traveling a lot and seeing a lot of founders, and everyone, like most of them, I want to say everyone, comes and says, actually, I have my 5 million round, for example, I secured 90% of it, but I just need a lead, even with the small tickets, but I just need a lead. So here we noticed also a big need of, I don't want to say expertise, but need of having VCs that are comfortable leading and bringing that value on the picture. And this is something that's going to be natural in our DNA in the team, because we have the experience to do that. We have, did deals in Europe, in the US, and in the MENA, so this is very comfortable. And we want to also bring that value to the region. So I agree that, I believe that we need to have complementarity when you come and you bring value. So those are the two things that we think will bring value in the region. Now then I want to add something else, because smart founders will always spend time to pick the VCs that bring them value. And added to the experience that we will also bring hands-on, because my partners, for example, lived 3 different downturns before, and so they're going to help, deal with such crisis. We also wanted to focus on bringing value when it comes to exit. So exit is a challenge in our region. We all speak about that. There are many panels about that. But the way we think we're going to also try to bring value on that is the fact that we have on board an advisor and part of the team that is our CFO today, but that will also grow as our chief exit officer once we also grow our portfolio and start doing investments. And what we mean by that is that from day one, once we invest, this person will come and help the company grow while giving them the tips to be dressed for exit. Because, when there is an acquirer and they find 2 startups, one have a cap table ready to be acquired, one is more ready to be acquired than the other, those things get prepared, right? And so we want to be able to bring that value to the founders also. So this is how we think we will be, complementing what's going on, but then we need also more and more VCs in this gap.
Definitely. Alex, you want to add anything to it, or Sumaya summed it up?
What could there possibly be to add to such a complete answer?
Absolutely. And I thought I'll just give you the chance at least.
Well, Indika, if you allow me, the only thing I would add, you ask are all VCs the same? So thankfully they're not. So I mean, yes, they'll all have the same objective, right? We want to invest in companies and resell them for more money. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to create value and provide liquidity to our portfolio. But thankfully, all VCs have a different way of analyzing deals. And this is great, because in an ecosystem, you have several VCs who will do different deals because their criteria process will be different. And this is what the ecosystem needs. You don't need all the VCs in a clubby way to all invest in the same 3 deals. You don't need this. And so thankfully, good VCs have their own internal process, and they choose their own deals independently of what the others do. I just wanted to add that.
Super. So while on the same topic of differentiation as well, I want to move on to the next part of my agenda about the investment focus and the strategy that Rasmal has. So I know there are some VCs who have an industry focus, right? They pick 1 or 2 industries that they specifically focus on. So what about Rasmal? Do you all have any specific agenda on specific industries and geographies as well?
Yeah, so I'll let you take geography. So on the thematic, the best VCs are generalist and are not verticalized. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, the main reason is that an investment period of a fund is typically something like 5 years. And in 5 years, a lot of things happen in the technology world. So if you put yourself in a box too early, then you just miss out on opportunity. So the VC business is kind of generalist by nature. In a way. And so we reflect this. So we have a generalist, what might be called in fact an opportunist approach to the sectors that we look at. Now, having said that, there are sectors that we want to, let's say, focus a little bit more attention on. Not necessarily a portfolio focus, but let's say more depth and more knowledge, and be known in the region as the specialist for those sectors. One of them is climate tech. Not only because the region is among those that will suffer tremendously from climate change, but also because it's important. One of them is energy tech, because of the legitimacy of Qatar in energy provision generally. Logistics tech to some extent, because it's a little bit boring and therefore overlooked by many investors. B2B SaaS generally, because there's a big catch-up of the enterprise world in solutions that are used by other markets. And so those are sectors that we want to spend fintech within that vertical. So those are sectors that we want to spend a bit more time on, but not being specialized in them.
Great.
Yeah. So
I just want to ask one more question on that, though I didn't have it. What's the role of AI in this whole thing? Does it cut across most of the technologies that you're looking at, or startups, or are you looking at core AI-related startups as well?
So what company today is not an AI company on some level or other? So it's hard to look at AI as a vertical. AI is kind of everywhere. Like, I started in VC when in the early 2000s, we were asking every company, what's your mobile strategy, right? Because at that time, mobile was just going like this, and the web companies had to understand how their offering would somehow be consumed on mobile. So what's your mobile strategy was kind of like the catchphrase of the time. And so today AI is kind of the same. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's either core or non-core, but it's in every company.
All right.
definitely, yeah. So maybe from a geography perspective, this is what's, I think, left for this question. So on a target of $100 million fund, we think that 80% should be focused on MENA. We're based in Qatar, and venture capital is a proximity job. So we're definitely going to be focused also on Qatar and trying to find the gems that we could empower in Qatar. But we're going to be focused in MENA, picking the startups that we could empower in their journey. And 20% will remain opportunistic international investment. Just because my partners worked in Europe, I worked in the US, we have this natural quality deal flow that comes our way. And we want to leverage that by bringing the ones that naturally want to come to the region, or we could be smart money for them and have them also part of our target. So this is from a geography perspective.
Super, thank you. So coming to the startup side, I'm sure this is a question that a lot of people are interested to know. So what stage of startups that are you all interested in investing? Plus, I want to plug in another question to that. In Rasmal's opinion, how do you define the ideal startup who is investor ready, VC ready?
Please.
Okay, I'm going to start with the VC ready and leave him the other part. So investment and the startup world, I always believed it's all about people, right? The project can change and pivot and many things can happen. It's true that we invest in Series A, Series B. It means that the company already has some traction, market validation. So obviously the ABCs is that we looked at the traction is strong, that there is market validation, that now there is an interesting pipeline and the challenge is to grow. So we want to see that validation for sure. But it's again all about people, the founder. Are they passionate enough? Are they the founder market fit is there? Why are they the good team to solve that problem? I always come back to that again and again. Then of course you're going to analyze the financials, the potential ROI. Those are the logical, normal things to look at, but I want to come back again and again to say how much this team is willing to push further again and again and again to make it happen.
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. This is easy. I'll ask the questions of Sumaya only. I'm joking. Okay, coming to exits. We all know exits are very important to VCs, right? So what's the benchmark of exits that you all look at, right? And is it time frame based, value based? What's the kind of benchmark or theory that you all have for exits?
So I'm not sure I understand exactly the sense of your question.
Yeah, like when do you think it's a good time to exit?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, any time is a good time to exit whenever you make a good deal. But I mean, there are various, there's various dimensions at play that have to be considered, and it's not such a simple thing. So, for example, a fund is typically an 8 to 10 year life vehicle. That typically gets extended, not only here, by the way, also in Europe and in the US, typically funds get extended because you have assets at the end that are simply not sold, and so the easiest way to manage these assets is to extend the life of the fund. But but it means that in the manager's mind, at the end of those 10 years, there shouldn't be any assets left there. So there's actually a pressure to exit, which, by the way, is not so great. There are vehicles that are called evergreens that have no pressure to exit. So investment corporations are evergreens. They can hold on forever. And when I first started in VC, I actually started in an evergreen. And so I let's say, tasted this culture of not having a pressure to exit. So that was a long answer. So the shorter answer is 5 to 6 years is the exit horizon. And when we meet founders, we kind of want them to think alike. When we're investing, we want them to think, I've got 5 or 6 years ahead of me to build a really great company, and then the market will want it. And it happens, it doesn't happen. You can only sell when you have a deal on the table. You can't force a sale. But you have to, we like to invest in situations where we know that within that time frame, the company can grow to a level where it can realize a really good sale. If that answers your question.
No, I think it's fair enough, and I don't want to dig deep into some of these questions because I know the audience is going to have their own set of questions as well. They're going to pick up from some of the conversations we are having. Okay, so generally startups feel that VCs are tougher than angels, right? They're a bit harsh, right? Too much of conditions, etc. Why do you think this notion is, and from a VC point of view, to be fair by the VCs, is it true, this notion, or is it some...
It's true.
It's true. Oh,
it's true. VCs are horrible and very harsh and very difficult to work with. So it's funny because I mean, as I think I said, I've been doing VC for a long time. Only recently I started... well, somehow it so happened that I started advising entrepreneurs on the other side. So entrepreneurs would come to me, which had never happened to me in my Western VC life, but it happened here, that entrepreneurs would come to me and say, okay, I got this offer from a VC, what do you think? And I would read it and I would say, well, we ask for stuff like this? Like, if I'm in your shoes, I'd push back. You can't accept this, you can't accept this. And so, yeah, some of the terms can be very, very harsh. I want to say that it's for good reason. It's for discipline. I mean, to give an example, founders will almost typically push back on something that is always in a VC term sheet, which is that any expenditure beyond what is budgeted, you sit down at the end of the year and you agree a budget for the next year. And you do so in a consensual way with the company, with the entrepreneur, with the VC. You agree a budget. Well, anything that is outside that budget should be approved by the board or the VC. And founders will always say, no, I have 80% of the company. I know what I'm doing. It's not by spending 10,000 that you're going to block me. But that's not the point at all. The point is to put rigor into the budgeting process. This is the point. And so I want to say it's for like good, almost parenting reasons that some of these terms are harsh, and they're not all bad. But yes, some of the terms are harsh.
Yeah, if I could add
Please.
just a few words here. Governance, right? Help for governance. So when I used to angel invest myself also, like when you have only yourself to report to, or maybe your husband or your family, it's way easier than you have also yourself and your LPs. So you have, it's a different dynamic, right? So you also need to put your, like as a founder, it's also interesting to put yourself in the shoes of the VC. It's like the VC also has the LPs that they report to, and then everything needs to be done differently. It's not like you call Indika and tell him, Indika, I know you're great at fintech, please look at this, you want to put the ticket, right? It's a different dynamic.
Yeah, I guess there's accountability as well, right?
So just on that topic, I mean, Microsoft very famously developed without any VC money. They were profitable from almost day one, and it's in their third or fourth year that that they took on a VC, and Bill Gates, I think it's been circulated and is public thing that he said that they took on a VC because they wanted an adult around the table. So they wanted that kind of sounding board and that good governance.
Okay, makes sense. Great. Moving on. So how do you see venture capital landscape evolving in the next few years? And especially, I would like 90% of the answer to be focused on Qatar as well. because I think Qatar is going through a amazing period of shift, a positive shift in terms of the ecosystem. So how do you see the venture capital scene evolving here?
I can start with the international and I can leave you the Qatar side. So actually it's it's a very interesting time to be launching a venture capital fund, and we're super excited that we're doing it now. Why? There are a lot of books that were written about this, you know. Historically, the most performing funds and having the highest chances to be performing are the ones that are born in a downturn. For so many reasons. The valuations are a little bit more less important, the opportunity is evident and big, and then you can see it more obviously than other times. So it's a good time to do VC. Then definitely it's also a challenging time to be fundraising because it's a downturn. But why I'm saying this is that in the next 5 years, I only think that things will be just expanding and looking greater and greener.
Well, in terms of Qatar, it's also super exciting time. I mean, you all, I think, saw this QIA announcement of $1 billion dedicated to fund of funds, which is basically to attract people like us to set up funds like Rasmal in Qatar. And so we're not going to be alone for long, as I was saying earlier, which is super. VCs like VCs. I mean, we like to discuss with our peers, and VCs attract entrepreneurs. More entrepreneurs attract more VCs. The reality is that Qatar hasn't had such a spotlight because of various political reasons in the past, hasn't had such a spotlight on its innovation ecosystem from neighboring countries, from the VCs in UAE and you know, and in Saudi. But now all this is changing, so there'll be more VCs here. There'll be more VCs from outside looking at the companies here, and so it's very likely a very good time to set up a company in Qatar. I think it's it's only looking up, and at the same time one can say Qatar is late to the game. You know, in a better, you know, better late than never kind of a way. And at the same time, one can say it's an opportunity to do things better, because the reality is that other ecosystems did it a certain way. Today, with hindsight, we can see what went well, what went bad. And so Qatar is an opportunity to shorten that cycle and really boost its innovation ecosystem. And we're just delighted to be part of that.
So I'm going to jump and quickly plug in another question I had to the same question, same answer that you're giving. So what are the opportunities you see for the innovation and growth in Qatar, specifically on the innovation space? Because I think where Rasmal as a VC comes in, it goes hand in hand, right? The potential growth in the innovation space as well. So
we are focused on Series A, Series B, right? So in Qatar we have some, but the pipeline is limited. And actually even in the MENA region is limited, the pipeline, when it comes to more scaling startups. But then when we look at the seeds, when we say you know, innovation, I mean, okay, let me answer differently. In the MENA region in general, we see a lot of Me Too, which is completely fine, which is completely great, and many people on many panels, and I'm completely convinced that it's a great opportunity as long as you can adapt it to the ecosystem. But one of the things I would love to see more is the fact that, you know, founders to take also the risk to be innovators themselves from scratch. It's okay, just to be completely creative and do something that is not a Me Too. It's exciting to see those things. But at the same time, when I look at my peers, VCs in the region, I also notice that there are great innovations that we are looking at. They're part of our pipeline and we're super excited about it. But at the same time, other VCs in the region will not be interested, or at least say, I'm not going to invest until there is a lead to do this. It's too new, too different, too et cetera, et cetera. So if both work together, where the founder is more daring in the MENA region to just be creative, bullish about the idea and go and do it, even if it doesn't exist, and the VC to be more risk taker in the region, both together will definitely boost the innovation we're looking at in Qatar and outside Qatar.
Okay. I want to move a little bit faster because I know we're going to have a lot of questions from our experiences before. So Alex, I want to ask you this question. What are the biggest challenges you have faced or facing as a newly launched VC firm? Not particularly because it's in Qatar, okay, but in general.
Yeah. You know, like I said before, a VC is like any other business. So, you know, starting up a business is, I mean, as many of you in the room know, it's difficult. You know, arguably a VC is harder because there are two vehicles. There's a management company and a fund. So there's actually two entities that you have to start up and get regulated and get running and have traction, you know, with investors and develop deal flow and so forth. So, you know, you start up a company, you bring a team together. You have to fight on all fronts to get it up and running. So to be honest, there isn't one specific thing that comes to mind. You know, it's just a constant struggle to make sure that we build things in the proper way and look up.
So for you, is it like deja vu, having done this multiple times?
So not multiple times. I had done it before, but not multiple times. Yeah.
Right. This is a question that a lot of, I think now because our ecosystem is growing, a lot of startups are scaling, commercializing as well in Qatar over the last couple of years. So what do you consider as a Qatari startup with Rasmal Ventures? How do you define that?
A Qatari startup.
Yeah, Qatari startup.
Well, a Qatari startup, I mean, obviously when you have a Qatari founder, when you have also the company incorporated in Qatar, starting in Qatar, but at the same time, I look at it like Qatar, I personally like to see Qatar as a springboard to many things. It's so strategic to many things. So an expat team that decided to come to Qatar and they want to expand their operations here, they want to have their regional hub here for the region, I see it personally as a Qatari startup. And like, I don't want to limit it just to Qatar, but Qatar is a springboard to many things. So coming from outside to make Qatar your regional office, or being based here as an expat or as a Qatari founder, all for me seems to be Qatari.
Okay, great. So just to clarify, the founding team does not have to have a Qatari national.
I mean, the team, no.
No.
But
okay.
Based here, interested
Based
here, having operations
registered
here,
all that.
Ideally having, you know, a complementary, passionate, determined team. Qatarian expats, both is a detail.
Great. Alex, I want to ask you this question about, because you earlier touched upon the Karim example. Can you share some success story from your previous experience, portfolio that you're particularly proud of? Maybe apart from Karim. Karim, we all know 200x, blah, 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 but something that you're really proud of in terms of how the startup grew. I mean, what your role as a VC was in making sure that they grew from here to here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. So if you allow me 20 seconds on Karim. So I'm really proud of Karim, not just because of the result of the investment, which, you know, arguably was pretty good, but because the analysis was correct. You know, a lot of VCs had said no and had passed. And actually the founders of Karim, you know, thanked us publicly in the past for being the first VC to say yes. And the reason we said yes is that we actually did our work properly, and we really made the right analysis on the people and on how defensible the tech that they had built would be when the big U.S. company came to compete against them. So I'm really proud of this one, and obviously the result was there. So another example from my past. So early on in my career, there was a strange new technology called RFID. Some of you will remember what RFID is. It was called RFID. Then a few years later, the industry thought it was cool to call it M2M, which stood for machine to machine. And I guess today it's some form of IoT. So the label changed, but the tech remains the same. It's essentially a transponder, you know, speaking to a reader in one form or another. And so we knew we wanted to do an investment in RFID. This is in my old shop, but we didn't know whether it should be a verticalized company or a horizontal solutions provider, where in the value chain this company should be. And I was tasked with the job of finding a company that we could invest in. And I did find one in Switzerland, much by accident. I won't tell the full story, but I went to see this company essentially because it was missing from the competitive analysis of a very visible competitor. And I thought, wow, if they're not putting this company, that's because there must be a gem there that they don't want us to know about. So I found this company. We ended up doing a deal. It was a very difficult investment because very soon after the investment, we faced IP litigation in the US, and let me tell you, you never want to face IP litigation in the US. It is a struggle and a half, and it ended up costing us $10 million for legal fees, but for essentially winning the thing. But still, despite all this struggle and so much learning throughout this IP litigation case, for me, actually, the investment was also very successful. And this was a company that is essentially provided transponders to tag companion animals. So if you have a dog or a cat, it has a chip probably made by this company today.
Wow, okay. My dog at home has one, so I must check that.
Yeah. One of the deals I was super proud of to be part of the investment team in my old shop in the US was Udemy, that IPO'd in 2021. So I was part of I was not the lead, obviously, but was part of the team, and I saw how it grew. And I want to come back to something I said before, just to inspire everyone here that, you know, it's about the team. At the end of the day, when they started at the beginning when they started with their business, it was pivoting all over the place. They were not the platform they were today. They were thinking of bringing people to come and do people and workshops and on-site, and then completely change it later and all. And so when we invested in their Series A with the fund I was part of, it was still pivoting so hard and so fast. And then seeing the whole growth, because all investors believed in the team, and so how the growth happened because they believed in the team, was wonderful to see. So this is one of the exits I was very proud to see happening with my superiors at that time.
Lovely. So I want to move on to a different section now of discussion about ethics. So how do you incorporate ethical considerations into your investment decisions? So I know sometimes it's a could be potentially, I hope not, a hard decision sometimes. It's such a lucrative opportunity as well, but how does ethics come into play, right? And I want to add something onto that as well. How does social impact play a role in your investment decision making?
Yeah. So short answer, I mean, ethics come into play absolutely and always. You know, I mean, we think it's the responsibility of an investor to invest in things that are ethical and beyond that in some sense, you know, helps the world and makes life better. And so we very much incorporate this in how we look at projects and which projects we look at. In terms of, strictly speaking, ESG, which I think was the second part of your question. So we do have a questionnaire as part of our processes to measure when we will invest in companies, as our portfolio develops, to measure on an annual basis what the impact is of that company and its tech and its activity on ESG principles. Measurement is the first step, and then we can decide what to do about it.
Okay, great. I have a question. I've seen startups even in Qatar and elsewhere also, how the solution or the product might not be anything to do with sustainability, right? It could be totally another random thing. But they bring in a sustainability element to it, saying, okay, we want to be ESG conscious and social responsible and all that. So I sometimes believe that investors don't care about that. Investors care about the product or the solution that's going to bring a return on investment, right? What's your thoughts about it?
So I'm sorry, I speak too much. May I? So you know, I have the same answer as before. When I said before that in the early 2000s we would systematically ask startups, "What's your mobile strategy?" Well, what's your climate strategy? Like even a company that has you know, supply chain solutions to make the supply chain more fluid. Well, it has a climate impact. I mean, it should have a climate impact. And so they should at least be able to say, well, this is our impact. This is how we contribute somehow to the fight against climate change. And every company should think about this. And if their impact is greater or if their impact is lesser, that's dependent on their chosen activity, but they should at least understand and have an answer ready as to what it is.
Yeah, and when we look globally, we see that Europe is doing great at this, marrying both that you have the impact and for-profit mindset.
Right. So I think ideally for an example, like it could be a logistics company, how they are contributing to reduce the carbon footprint, things like that, right? Okay, great. So about being on the same area of the social impact as well, even Startup Grind had the month of June as the Female Founders Month. Globally, we have a focus on female founders. Some VCs are there specifically investing and focusing on female founders only. Nothing wrong in it, but that's their strategy, right? So what about Rasmal? Do you have a strategy as such, or do you treat everybody based on merit?
Yeah, I'm the woman in the panel. Merit, 100%. But let me give you some background though, because people that know me and are close to me, they always know that I don't want to be attending panels when it comes to women, like women-focused VC or founders, blah, 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 until I lived a certain experience with my previous job in the US, a wonderful team of gentlemen and very value-oriented. I have nothing to say. But then when I noticed, for example, when we were recruiting for the firm, something specific happened. So we had two finalists, a gentleman and a lady, and I really found the lady wonderful. And all of them found the gentleman great. What I suggested was that, how come you're not seeing it? So what about we give them 3 months both together just to start, and then after the 3 months we will decide who we're going to move full time. And anonymously, all of us decided to keep the lady. So is there a bias? Is not there a bias because most of them are men, women? I don't know. There are so many books to read and answer this. It's not my place to say that. But I also believe that when we have more women in the other side of the world, like in the other side of the table, I think it's just that potential of bias that could be there could help push back on that. Now in our case, in the GP, we're half women, Dr. Shaykh Al-Jabr and myself, so we can't do more when it comes to balance in that sense.
Great. No, I think that's a good representation from Rasmal from a team perspective as well. And just to reiterate, so it's on merit, right? Amazing. Okay, advice to entrepreneurs. Can I see a show of hands who are founders here? Okay, great. Majid, you're way beyond that now. You're too old for it. Okay, I'm kidding. Right. So, what's the advice you want to give startups? Qatar, let's talk about Qatar specifically. Looking to secure funding from a VC.
Yeah.
Irrespective of which stage they are in, because we might not know at which stage they are in right now, but in general.
Yeah, I contribute this specific talk, a lot in various workshops that are held in Qatar throughout the year. And I actually have a deck on the topic, that has very specific recommendations. And I'm very happy to share it with whoever will ask me for it, to email it out. But essentially, the short answer to the question is the best way to attract a VC is to not need them. So that's the number one recommendation to founders is find another way to finance your business. And then VCs will be interested in talking to you.
Yeah. Maybe something I really like and I see that it's smart from the founders to do is to do their due diligence on their investors. When you have a founder asking you what value are you going to bring me, I find it a smart strategic founder that is a great business person in that sense. So I know that when there is scarcity in money and funding, we feel that we need to take the first money coming and then grow and all. But most of the times, we look at great entrepreneurs, we are not investing because we see that because of previous investment they took that are blocking their growth, not smart money, the company's growth is blocked because, you know, in some cases you can take a great angel investor, but if the angel investor is expecting you to have returns in 1 year, or is asking you not to have shares, what we call ESOP, for your employees because he doesn't want his money to go there, those are triggers and alarms that, you know, it's blocking the growth. And so founders, I think, need to make sure to do their due diligence and to pick smart money. Even if it's hard to get money, don't get poisoning or bad money. Better not get funding than get bad funding. This is what I would say.
Okay, great advice.
Being an entrepreneur is a very tough job, and it's a very lonely job, as many of you in the room will know. And I think some of you can probably give some lessons in resilience. But I guess, you know, don't give up and keep going. I mean, good things happen to those who keep going.
Great. I'm going to run through quick ones. Coming to pitching, I'm sure between you, Sumaya and Alex, both of you, you've seen hundreds of pitches from early stage to Series A to Series B. What are some of the top 3 mistakes these startups make? And I've seen my share of issues as well. Amazing product, amazing solution. They come and something goes wrong, right? So what are the top 3 things that you come to your mind, the cardinal mistakes they should not make?
Yeah. Do you want to start that one?
I have some handy, for sure. The first one is not to be prepared. Like, you're coming to meet Indica today, you need to at least know what Indica does, what's the mandate, investment mandate, like, are there any teammates that are in the industry that you're interested in? All those things are very important. And I think founders, I understand that they focus quantity, but sometimes you need to focus on the quality of the meetings you have than just meeting everyone, and then you're not gonna stay in the minds of anyone, right? So being prepared for the meeting is important, that's for sure. And the second thing is that I'm a structured person. I like structure. I like to see things organized, but then to a point where it becomes like, you know, like a song, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes you just pause. It's not only about walking me through your pitch deck, it's about also the human aspect of it, where you come, you tell us why you are doing this, the watching the body language of the conversation. All this also shows us whether you have the sales skill set as a CEO or not. You know, making it more human, because I feel like, you know, sometimes it gets robotic a little bit, and it's not nice and it's not interesting, and you don't keep a great impression in the minds of investors. Any that came to your mind?
So I went through a stage when in my startup analysis days, when I used to stop looking at a project after I found the second spelling mistake. So which arguably was a little bit harsh. And I've since relaxed quite a bit. Since I have a daughter who has a learning disability, I had no choice but to get a bit cooler on the topic. But still, I mean, just being, you know, crisp and clear and correct in communication is just so important. And it's so easy to not make, you know, silly mistakes and typos in a presentation. So just don't. And the second one that I tend to say, by the way, I also have a deck on how to pitch specifically to VCs. But the second one is to answer the question. And I say this a lot, you know, like, if there's a simple answer to a question, just say what it is. So I'll advise entrepreneurs to answer a VC's question by saying, the answer to your question is yes. And if it's a bit more complicated than that, then you get into the detail and you explain, let me qualify that. And then you can explain, but just to provide that answer right away in a clear way is super important, because the VC you're talking to has 20 projects on his or her desk, and so you want to be remembered as the guy or girl who answered the question right away. I got a clear answer from that person.
Super stuff. Alex, I'm going to hold you to that, to share that decks with me, which I can share it on the Startup Grind group. We have about 200 plus founders on that, and ecosystem enablers in that group. I'm sure they're going to be much benefited with that knowledge. Thank you, Alex. Okay, coming to the last part, and I know Sumaya and Alex, you have something to share with the audience as well. You talked about smart money and value addition. There could be VCs, and then you have VCs, right, who might have money, the funding, the capital, but there could be also VCs who bring a lot of value addition, right? in terms of governance. Alex was mentioning earlier, accountability, the structuring, and also in terms of, it's not the hard stuff, the soft stuff as well, right? To help them through, because I'm sure the founders know for a fact it's a hard journey at the end of the day. So what's Rasmal's plan on how you, apart from capital, how do you value add to the startup founders that you invest in, or even not invest, but from an ecosystem enablement point of view?
Sumaya.
Yeah, I can do the opening and I'll leave you the announcement.
You do the soft stuff and leave me the hard stuff.
So within the team, we have a strong shared value, is that the more you give to the community, to the ecosystem, the more you receive. And this is the mindset we want to be sharing, this is the mindset we want to be showing, and we are going to be acting on it. And so, you want to drink? So I want just to announce with Alex something that we were thinking of with Rasmal. We were thinking, okay, now we focus on Series A, Series B in the region. In Qatar, we are here. We want to bring value. We want to be part of elevating and learning and contributing. And we see more seed or pre-seed startups. How can we help them? How can we be part of their journey to be more ready for us when they arrive to our stage, so that it's easier for us to invest and they're prepared? And so we decided to launch, and we wanted to give Startup Grind the privilege to announce that, to launch a program called Open Door VC. And I'll let you, Alex, explain it.
Open Door VC. So the notion is, in Qatar and in fact everywhere, there are many workshops, like we said earlier, and and a lot of great people in this room host and manage some fabulous workshops on topics like how to be more attractive to VCs, etc., all the things we talked about. And those workshops are awesome, and this takes in no way anything away from them. We wanted to contribute something a little bit different to the ecosystem. The notion of open door VC is the same as that of professor office hours in US universities. So those of you who went to university in the US will know what that is, but essentially, every now and then, scheduled in advance, a professor has his or her door open for students to come and ask anything that they want of that person, and usually one-on-one, unless they come in a group for a specific reason. And we think that there's value in doing exactly the same. So we will, starting soon, we'll announce when we start, but we wanted it to be first announced here. We will dedicate, a morning a month, or an afternoon a month, and our door will be open for any entrepreneur in Qatar to come and ask us a specific question, and that would typically not be answered by those workshops or those training fora. So this could be things like, I got an offer from an angel investor. What do you think here I can negotiate? What should I not negotiate? Or I have an option plan and I have employees leaving. How does it? How should I deal with these options? Very specific questions that would be answered by one of us on the spot. Open Doors VC. There you have it.
Amazing. All right, so that comes to the end of, not bad, we managed our time very well, right? Alex and Sumaya, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor to host this and to have this conversation with you guys. And and I think we have another about, now it's 7:20, probably we'll have another about half an hour probably to get some good questions from the audience. And see, and guys, please keep your questions, one question, keep the question short, right, so that we can give more people the opportunity to ask questions as well, right, because if not, I'm going to cut you off, okay, just for the fact that I want to give more people the opportunity to ask Alex and Sumaya some pertinent questions that probably we didn't discuss already. Once again, thank you very much. I'm going to get up. Both of you continue to sit back there, and let's see what the audience has for some questions. I'm going to take one of the mics, Sumaya, if you don't mind, so that I can pass 2 mics around, okay? All right, so who wants to go first? Okay, so I'll give you one mic and I'll send the other mic to the back.
Hi guys, good evening everybody. Great session, Mr. Alexander and Sumaya. Thank you so much. Great hosting, Mr. Indika, as well. My name is Michael. So I have a question. Now, when it comes to building a startup, everybody is excited about getting money until they realize that getting money comes with being accountable as well. So, and I know how that is important to VCs as well. So I think my question is, what are some of the structures when it comes to corporate governance that some startups should put in place? Or startup founder, what should I put in place regards corporate governance to look attractive to VCs?
Yeah, Michael, thank you. So, I mean, there's many things that could be put in place by the startup. The one thing I would say that makes a lot of sense is to have from very early on an independent board member. And this could be in the form of an angel investor. Angel investors make great independent board members. Some people in the room can say something about that. But to have one outsider who has been from the beginning your sounding board, ideally an experienced person in your sector, and who can help you put in place a better structure so that you're not completely alone, because it's hard to be alone and you get a lot from an outside board member who could be not remunerated. It could be somebody who's doing you a favor because you know them, or somebody from your family, or it could be an angel investor who gets remunerated by value created in his or her investment, or it could be somebody that you somehow remunerate also in a small in shares, for example. But having an outside board member as early on as possible is a really great thing, because we see startups that are already quite developed, already even in Series A, that do not have proper governance, and we see the negative effect of not having that proper governance. That would be my answer. Sumaya, I don't know if, yeah. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes. Thanks, Alex. We have a question at the back.
With the growing, other than the growing investment opportunities and the growing community of startups in Qatar, what do you see is a really good advantage of starting your startup in Qatar?
I'm sure you have ideas to add, but so I believe Qatar could be really strategic in some sectors. I said it before and I repeat it again. So when you're launching, for example, in a sector like, I like to say energy tech, we're looking at some startups there, and we're looking at Qatar as a place to start that, because even though it's a small market, but still could be huge for that sector, right? We are looking at startups, and those are concrete cases. A startup that is thinking of having a main office here in Qatar, because one of their main clients is a regional client. So if they secure that client, they will just go access the whole region in one shot, right? So when it's strategic from that perspective, Qatar could be a wonderful place actually to come, spend time and effort to be here and grow your adventure from here. I don't know, Emma is also a good example.
No.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Yusuf.
We're loud enough. So you spoke a lot about startups being based in Qatar and how it's attractive and so on. Just to piggyback on that, Qatar has a legal financial ecosystem that is maybe not yet super friendly when we compare it to Delaware, Singapore, and things like that. So how do you suggest that local startups kind of navigate when it comes to setting up and structuring their corporate structure?
By corporate structure, do you mean holding company? I mean, yeah. So the reality is that, and that's not just Qatar, by the way, it's regional and also many other geographies outside of the region. The reality is that developed economy buyers, US buyers, European buyers, will have a really hard time to buy a mainland Qatari company, much like they'll have a really hard time to buy a mainland Emirati company or Saudi company. And so most tech startups have an international holding for that purpose, to make it easier to sell down the road. And so there are various options. So Singapore is one, Delaware is another. BVI is very popular. Most of the UAE companies have BVI holdings, and it's just a normal thing to do to have that holding company, hold all the assets, and this is where the investors go, and it just facilitates your exit, because otherwise you may have to do it under duress in the last minute in order to secure an exit, and that gets really messy. So there will come a time when that won't be necessary anymore, when a US buyer will be able to buy a Qatari mainland company, but as long as it does remain difficult and there are obstacles, you just want to make it as fluid and easy as possible, and that's one way to do it.
Great. Firas.
I see Firas smiling, and I'm worried.
Good luck, Alex.
I'm trying not to force him to ask a question, so.
I see a pattern here. I think Marcel wants to ask the question, and he put Firas on.
No, that's my own question.
It's a question for
Hi.
you.
Oh my God. Thank you for the gift.
Hi, I'm Firas. So the question is about this continuum of from early stage pre-seed through seed through VC where you guys are, and then through the exit. And maybe that upstream and the downstream area is still kind of greenfield. And I mean, I'd love to get some information about your deployments and how you're doing them in the absence or maybe very weak, downstream and upstream from you guys. And what's the solution to those areas adjacent to you? So how do we get more companies that can succeed in pre-seed and seed so that you have a deal flow? And then also, how do you guarantee your exits afterwards? And are there exits in the region that would be interested in Qatari companies right now?
All right. So we're based in Qatar. We're a Qatari VC and focused on the MENA with some international opportunistic investments. So when we look at the region and we look at Qatar, it's completely two different challenges. In the region, like the rest of our region out of Qatar, the challenge is Series A. There are so many VCs in seed. It's overwhelming. Sometimes it's even challenging and making valuations going really high for no valid reason, right? So the seed challenge is not really, I don't see it in neighbor countries. We see it more here in Qatar. And one of the things that we are consciously discussing in the team is that the fact that we thought of open door VC is because we want to make sure that we can help those, even if we're not potentially putting our ticket, but we are very well connected to investors in the region or globally, or we could facilitate when governance is better, when interesting advice is given in the right time, it could accelerate or improve those things. This is our contribution within the team that we think we could help. Now then, we focus on Series A, Series B, but then if we have the best next amazing gem out of Qatar, and then we want to be putting a smaller ticket early on and seed exceptionally to do that, definitely we will. We are here, we want to help, we want to capture the best, we want to empower the best, and VC is a proximity job again, so we want to make sure to bring value. So this is how we're trying to mitigate it. What's the solution? Well, I think now that the fund of fund was created, which is an amazing news, we hope that we're going to see more and more seed funds also, active more in Qatar too, and so that we can unlock that funding challenge early on. I mean, also, institutions like QDB and others are also doing great at trying to fill that gap, but we need more and more hands, right? One hand doesn't clap by itself, so we need to have more support in that sense.
Yeah, I think like Sumaya, I'm less worried about upstream. There are great accelerator programs in Qatar and in the region. There is good deal flow coming out of there, and there'll be more and more startups, as we said before. Downstream is a little bit more worrying. So when we invest in a great Series A company, our fund, we'll get to 100 million. With 100 million, there's only so much we can do. And so Series B, Series C, Series D, there have to be people there who are willing to come on board. And so corporate CVC is one answer. So there's more and more CVC. There's more and more funds. And as funds get bigger, they tend to do later stage. So we think that this problem will slowly get fixed over the next few years, that there'll be more players dealing with the downstream part from us. And it's absolutely vital for us. So you're very correct to point that out.
Just CVC, for the ones that don't know what CVC is corporate venture capital, so more and more open innovation in that sense.
Simona, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Nice to see you both again. My name is Xiomara. And I was wondering, I mean, obviously, most people think of VCs and then funding is the primary thing and it's at the core of what you're doing. But are you all, as Rasmal, offering other value adds like strategic guidance, operational improvements, cash generating initiatives, access to resources and other things like that?
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit, but the short answer is yes. And so we are, so I think Sumaya explained that we have a person among the team who's our exit officer. So to Firas's point, what happens downstream after we invest? I mean, are there exit? How do you exit a company? A lot of companies don't find exits just because they haven't been dressed up from the beginning to exit properly, with proper processes, or they simply haven't targeted their buyer early enough to be able to effect that sale. So help on exit is a big thing that we're going to contribute. But aside from that, it's just experience, right? So we've lived through a lot of downturns. We know how we've seen how a startup should behave when there's an economic downturn, and we're able to advise them maybe better than others in that respect. And yes, we typically take a board seat, so we do have that strategic kind of input and shouldering of the entrepreneur.
Maybe to add one more thing on the resources. Right now there are so many online resources available, etc. We are also working on having our own. So when you check our website, you're going to see the content side, and then it's going to be fueled on a monthly basis from real experiences that could be shared. But I still also think that the open door VCs, and we're going to share the application link within the week with Startup Grind, will also help on that. Beyond our portfolio companies that we will help because we will be super active with, it's more on a community level, because when we can't rise by ourselves. We need to all rise together in that sense.
Hi, my name is Omar. Thank you so much for your time. I have two quick questions. One is ticket size, if you have something specific. Two, if you have a season-based investment rounds, like if you do it monthly, quarterly, or so. Very simple, straightforward.
So the average ticket size. So let's say, so our target is $100 million fund. So we think that we're going to make in total 22 investments. And so per year, 4, 5-ish investments. Now, digging deeper into the ticket size, so if we start in pre-Series A, Series A, we're going to come with an average of 3 to 5 million ticket. We can start lower, as low as 500 and go up, but we believe that the average would be 3 to 5. Leading rounds, and also be able to have an important allocation for follow-ons.
Does it
I
answer
answered the full question, right?
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Amaya. Any other questions, guys? Okay.
Maybe this is just a stereotype, but I hear a lot of the times VCs like to kick out the founder CEO. So I wonder, from your perspective, what makes a good founder CEO beyond just like the governance aspect?
So a good founder CEO does not need to be kicked out, because he or she knows when it's time to step aside. So I've done in my 24 years of VC, I guess, I've done, I said before, about 60 deals, but maybe that's in about something like 40 companies. And I've replaced a founder CEO once, because that person was simply not doing the job once. And often what happens is there's a certain skill set that's required to get a company from 0 to 5, 10 million in revenues. The founder wants the company to succeed. So he or she knows that somebody is better for the job past a certain threshold. And they typically are the ones that come to a board and say, guys, it's time to think about hiring a CEO. And then that person then typically becomes either chairman, it happens, chief evangelist happens, CTO happens. and in any case stays involved and interested in the company, but knows when to step aside. So I don't know if that answers your question. Once out of 40 deals, I've replaced somebody. All right, Majid.
Yes, hello, hi, my name is Majid. Thank you so much, it's a very informative session. So from a VC point of view, like they're always looking for like 100 million kind of like a valuation, right? So like the potential for startups to be like 100 million, like a unicorn or something. But I see a lot of startups, they reach up to like a $20 million or 25 or 30 or maybe 15. So would you be interested in this kind of startup as well? Or like you're aiming for 50 million plus potential startup in the future?
So how can I answer your question? Yeah, yeah. 100 million is a tenth of a unicorn. By the way, yeah, it's only 1/10. It's only a leg of a unicorn. But so in a way, the quantum doesn't matter. You know what we're after is multiple. So there are some companies which, for whatever reason, we get to enter at a lowish valuation. It doesn't have to become a unicorn for us to realize a really good investment, and for the entrepreneur to leave with a pile of money, which at the end of the day is also the entrepreneur's drive to realize an important capital gain. So no, we don't just target unicorns, but we target leaders. We target companies that can become leaders in their space, be that geographically or sectorially, and therefore that have some strategic value for a buyer to come and get them. The price is set by the market. If you're lucky enough to have unicorns in your portfolio, that's amazing, but you don't have to only invest in unicorns to have a very successful VC activity on the one hand and entrepreneurial experience on the other.
Super. Any other questions? Okay. Do you need the mic? Yeah, you need the mic.
So my question would be, I'm sorry if I might be repetitive, but I had to step out for a second. As a founder, my understanding, as let's say a new founder, my understanding is if I want to approach a VC, I want to approach a VC when I'm mature enough that I can, let's say, have a strong hand in negotiation, perhaps. But at the same time, I'm not late enough where perhaps the advantages I would get from a VC are brought into the company too late. So if we see it as like, let's say, an optimization problem, then my question would be, what would determine the right time to approach a VC? Perhaps you answered this question, but I wasn't here. And is the way I'm seeing it the right way, or is there different angles that might add to it, essentially? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very thoughtful question. So so will you give something away if you're too late or being too early? I mean, yes, there is a right time to approach a VC. There's a time at which, for whatever reason, you're not going to fit in that VC's investment criteria, and then you'll just get that answer. You'll just be told, I'm sorry, you're a little bit too early. You may be told, I'm sorry, you're a little bit too late, because at the end of the day, we also want to have a meaningful stake in the company that we invest in, and so if the activity is too developed, and it, then you might target later stage investors than we are ourselves. So we're a Series A investor, so roundabout Series A is very typically when you will have an MVP, when you'll start to have some market validation, when you have a 3/4 of your team in place, or a good part of your team in place. You might have to complement one or two key posts, but not 4 key posts. That's the stage at which people like us are interested. But investors, you will find earlier than us and later than us. And your job as a founder is to get those 10,000 hours of pitching experience. So you should pitch to investors anytime that you can, to angel investors, to boot camps or demo days of accelerators. And it's by pitching to the market, and we're only one market player, it's by pitching to the market that you will start to get the sense of when is the right time for these people to come on board and these people to come on board. And so you always need to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add something to the answer. So I'm a VC today, but I'm going to wear also the founder hat, because for a while I was also part of a startup. And to be honest, if you don't need the money of the investor, the outside investor, your best investor is your client. So if you're able to grow and fuel your growth because you have great traction and your clients are being able to pay, and you don't need to open a round for your growth, like, just do it. The best investor is the client. And then if it makes sense for your growth and the projection you're having in your plans to have a fuel of money and smart money, then open your round for a VC, for a targeted smart VC.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something, and it's a very good point. So I don't know how many of you saw Shark Tank episode with a guy who was selling prepackaged wine glasses. I'm sorry, I'm talking about wine. Maybe it's not correct, but it's a product like another. And this fellow said, you can buy, beer or Coke or anything else in a one portion. In one portion, but you can't buy wine in one portion. And so, did any of you see this episode? None of you. Some of you did. So the guy went to Shark Tank. He got an offer. His product was really good, and he got an offer, and he turned it down. He said, "No, sorry, I don't need your money," and he walked away. So this is how you hook an investor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my other question is, I don't know if VCs are solely focused on eventually exiting, but why the focus on exiting? Why not the focus on, let's say, growing the company to a lot and then getting the profit from there? Because sometimes when I see, let's say, a local company that does a great job and then it exits and it gets bought by a company outside the country, I feel like, well, perhaps if that company grew inside the company and somehow had that positive externality inside the company, whether it's related to the founders, the investors, whatever, it would be, let's say, perhaps nicer from maybe perhaps a nationalistic point of view. But I find that focusing on exiting sometimes might somehow not be always ideal.
Yeah.
But perhaps I'm missing something. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. So we can't force an exit. So an exit happens. So you cannot force an exit, and the thing you certainly cannot do is to sell a company without the CEO and the management team cooperating. So like I said before, an exit happens when you're all like-minded in a certain horizon and you target that process and you realize a proper exit. It does happen that exits so why must we have exits? That is a disadvantage of what's called a closed-end structure. Like I said earlier, a fund has a 10-year life. You have to shut down the fund at some point. Therefore, you have to have liquidated the assets, therefore sold the companies. You have to. And what happens from the entrepreneur's side is that sometimes your investors find a great exit to other investors. You just replace your investors. And I've done great exits that way by selling to PE funds who continued the adventure. The entrepreneur is not forced to sell his or her company. But what I said earlier, and I didn't want you to understand as a focus on the exit, because it's not a focus on the exit, but what I meant to say earlier is that we like projects where the entrepreneur has in mind that 5 or 6 year value creation timeline after which some of his or her hard work is realized. So this is what we like, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Thank you.
Salman, just speak.
I'm loud if I can.
Hello.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Alex. Hi, Sumaya. Nice to see you guys. So just a question. A Okay, so is there a certain preference that will be given to the companies that are being vetted and de-risked by the accelerator programs that are already available in the country?
Thank you for the question, and good to see you. So I'm going to give you a very direct answer. So we are a for-profit venture capital fund that want to pick the most ambitious and executors in the region. So whether they did an incubator before or not, it's a detail we could look at. If they did an incubator, and most of them are good friends, so it's good so that we could get more insights, but it's not mandatory, it's not a criteria, it's not a yes or no. We're not developmental, we're really for profit, and so we look at everyone that fits that excellency mindset.
Well, having said that, we love you guys because you help to get companies more VC ready. And so it'll be interesting when we have this reunion, 5-year reunion of this talk, to look at our portfolio and see how many have in fact been graduates of one of the accelerator programs, and I would expect more than not.
I think Salman was fishing for that comment.
I know, that's why I fed it to him.
All right. Last 2 questions before we break up. Yusuf, you had your turn. Okay, go ahead.
It's a good one.
Good one, okay.
But
As you said, it's a very young ecosystem. How do you expect talent at the startup level to flourish here? At the moment, it's not about here very concentrated in a lot of startups, entrepreneurs, this one compared to other countries. So how do you expect that talent to flourish here in Qatar? How do you see that kind of happening in the next 5 years? Strong startups.
do you want to have a go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're giving me the hard ones now, huh? So, very interesting question, and we were asking ourselves the question too when it comes to finding great entrepreneurs here. I don't know what happened after Web Summit Qatar, but definitely a huge pipeline of internationals, friends or friends of friends that want to come here, that want to be part of doing something here because they're discovering that there are a lot of things untapped and they want to be part of that. Also, entrepreneurs trying to see how they could expand to the region. They only were seeing neighbors before, and now they're saying, okay, something happening here, so how can I be first here, because there is everything to do. So there is always one step and then the one after for change and for things to begin and to flourish, right? And I'm pretty happy to see that Web Summit Qatar and creating that hub of people coming to Qatar for innovation is starting to bring more and more awareness and value in that sense. So I want to keep the optimistic mindset.
And also, you bring talent that you're missing, right? I mean, it's also your job as an entrepreneur to find the best people to help grow your company. I mean, in Qatar, Sununu did a great job doing this, hiring outside talent to come and help the company grow. I think Ahmad did a tremendous job doing this. And I think all entrepreneurs need to do this. And all these people, they come, then they also contribute to the ecosystem, which furthers the ecosystem. And this is a very important process. So all talent for your company does not need to be found in Qatar.
All right, that comes to an end. Samaya and Alex, thank you so much once again. Can we give a round of applause for these guys?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to him. I mean, he doesn't moderate a lot panels, so we're privileged that you picked us to moderate.
Okay, just before we break up for some refreshments and networking time, if any of the founders who are here, who are not part of our Startup Grind community WhatsApp group, please talk to me today. And it's a very tightly curated group, trust me. People who are in that group knows it, right? So I'm particular about bringing founders to that group because we help each other share knowledge and connect with each other. And if you're a coach, mentor, investor, please talk to me. I would love to add you all into that group because it's not about the numbers we want to create in that group, it's about the quality, right? And people who are in that group would testify to that. Again, a little bit about Startup Grind before we wrap up. We are planning a lot of activities in the next couple of months. Probably next month we might not have anything because half of you guys are going on vacation probably in July, right? So we don't want to do anything much in July. But starting August, we have so many things. We've got a pitch battle organized. I'm planning a reverse pitch. We are going to have probably against Sumaya and a few other VCs and angel groups pitching to startups. So we're going to have some fun stuff as well in the coming months. A lot of community programs that we are looking at launching in the next 6 months as well, Startup Grind, because at the end of the day, Startup Grind is about the community. That's it. Nothing less, nothing more, right? And that's what I want to do, and that's what Startup Grind is all about. So thank you very much. And by the way, I was told by the guys at Workington, some have left already, but overall, we've had 125 people coming today for this event. That's amazing, right? That's probably a Startup Grind record for us, right? Yeah, it is. We've had close to that in February when we had an event just before the day before Web Summit, when Casey and them were speaking. So thank you very much. I'm honored by all of you being here today. Thank you very much once again. Good night. Sorry, Simara.
If it's okay with you, I just mentioned to Yusuf about some ideas that to address this question about some ideas that you and I have talked about.
You want to share it?
Is that okay? Yeah, so Yusuf, to your question. So for those who don't know me, I'm Xiomara and I'm the Executive Director for the American Chamber of Commerce here in Qatar. And I've had several meetings with Indica around, part of my role as the chamber is our membership is mostly based of multinational large corporations, right? Your Microsoft, Google's, IBM's, Exxon, Conoco, right? Your big names in different sectors. And how can we bridge that gap between corporate and startups? And what kind of initiatives can the corporate structure do to support the ecosystem here? So this is something that Indica and I have had some talks around, and so of course we would start more high level with different roundtables for like larger players in the ecosystem, and then kind of move down getting feedback to figure out ways that we can be part of that community here in Qatar.
Super, thanks. All right, so thank you very much once again, guys. If I don't speak to any of you individually, good night, have fun, please stay on, grab a bite, have a karak, and talk to each other. Thank you very much once again.